Hello everyone, I'm Sabrina, and this is quite possibly the most stressed I've ever been over a video that I'm making. This was originally supposed to be part of a vlog, but it is so long that I do not have the storage for it, so it's its own video now. If you read the title, you know what it's about, but this is just a really short introduction into this video. I really hope you enjoy it. It is the most informal thing ever, so please do not take it seriously. These are purely just thoughts that are coming to mind at the moment, so thank you. Okay, I moved because the sun is really just messing me up. Anyway, let's talk about the Greenbone Saga. Oh my god, this is really just going to be a ramble about the last two books, Jade War and Jade Legacy. I finished it at the beginning of the month. I think July 10th I finished Jade Legacy. Let me tell you, oh my goodness. Okay, it took me a month to finish Jade City, and then it took me a week to finish Jade War, and it took me 2 days to finish Jade Legacy. I don't like to brag about myself, but I think that deserves a pat on the back. Like, seriously, once I started reading Jade War, it's like something in my brain switched and my brain chemistry is permanently altered. My life's trajectory has shifted. This series is magnificent and has affected me in various ways. When I say I am in my fantasy era, I completely mean it. The Greenbone Saga is the reason. Nothing can compare to it. Right now I'm reading Jade Shards. It is... Already, I've only read The Witch and Her Friend, which is about Ayat, and reading it after reading this trilogy, like, it adds so many layers already. Like, the first story, it adds so much more depth to these characters, and it's so great. Okay, let's talk Jade War first, okay? Jade War, oh my god, I don't even think, it's my favorite book out of the whole trilogy. Like, there is something about that middle book that just hits. And Jade War is amongst those second books that just are fantastic. And it is purely Wen's book. That is it. And I think that is why it is my favorite. This book, oh my god, I saw this one tweet. I forgot who it was, but they said that reading Jade War was like so intense and it made you feel like by the end of it, you were beaten up and left to die in the back of an alley. That is so accurate. Oh my goodness. Jade War. Okay, let's talk about it. Oh, let's talk about Jade City first, okay? So I read Jade City like 2 years ago, so I didn't really remember it when going into Jade War. Jade City I liked, but I feel like I went into it not knowing what I was going into, and so I was really surprised about like how much political and business aspects are within this world, and so I was a little bit turned off on it, but I eventually finished it, after a whole month. I liked it. I thought it was absolutely bonkers how a main character of a trilogy passes away. Okay, this is like all spoiler now. If you haven't read it, please go read it. It is the most fantastic fantasy series that you will ever read. Just go fucking read it. It's amazing. For Fonda Lee to have Lon die halfway through the first book of a trilogy, I was shocked. I was stunned. I purely did not see it coming. And like before his death, I was very much like, he's kind of boring. Like, I don't know. And then when he died, I was kind of like, wait, come back. I didn't mean it. I really didn't mean it. Because he is like my favorite character trope of eldest brother who has the world's problems on his shoulder and he just like has to like persevere. He's my favorite character trope, and I'm so sad that we did not get a lot of him. I'm so fucking pissed and very sad about it, but I did see someone say that like he is very much just like a stepping stone for mostly Hilo and kind of Shay, and you're so right, but I really wish it was something else. I loved Lon. And Jade City, Shay was my favorite character, and that drastically changes throughout my reading of the second and third book. So I'll talk about that, but Shay was my favorite in Jade City. I liked Hilo, but he wasn't my favorite. I could understand like why people were so in love with him, but at that point I wasn't like super in love with him. Like, yeah, he's hot, but I don't feel like some sort of attachment to him. Anyway, Jade City, it was really good. The ending, a visceral reaction like came out of me. And that was mostly caused by Barrow, because Barrow can actually fuck off and die. Like, I hate him so much, and I am so pissed that he fucking survives the 3 books. pissed, absolutely pissed. I will get more on that. It just, oh my god. Literally, like, my reactions were so violent, especially going into Jade War. So yeah, Jade City, I liked it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. That was 2 years ago. Jade War, oh my goodness. Yeah, we started out with Beryl and I think Mutt, like fucking grave robbing Lon's grave. Oh my god, I was so pissed. For Jade War to open like that, no. And for me to have gone into this book like 2 years after finishing the first book, the emotions are still there. I still had such a visceral and violent reaction. Like, oh my god, the anger just like boiled up in me. It like literally is not fair and I'm so fucking pissed. You're actually kidding me. You're actually kidding me. Oh my god, at that point, I was hoping that Shay and Hilo would find out and murder the shit out of those two, especially Beryl. Oh my goodness. But no. I think it's like, I forget if it's Jade Legacy or Jade War, but fucking Hilo comes face to face with Beryl and pissed is what I am because Hilo did not fucking murder the shit out of Beryl. I mean, he murdered the shit out of Mutt, which, you know, burying that motherfucker in the ground with a fucking tube to breathe out of, but like having these Jade withdrawals. You know who that should have also happened to? So fucking pissed. Jade War Hilo. I liked him more in here. Hilo is just, okay, like talking about characters, like he is such a complicated character because I love him, but also I really want to run him over with a car. Like after Jade Legacy, I would plow through that fucking man with a car. No second thought. He actually fucking deserves it because, oh my god, you really can't trust men, can you? They all suck. But Jade War Hilo, a lot of people I read like some reviews on it were saying that like it was like a step too far for Hilo to murder Nico's mom. And I totally get it, but like I do understand Hilo's point where he's like, I was doing it for the clan. Not really, but I feel like that excuse can be valid, you know? I mean, Hilo obviously did it for like very selfish and personal reasons, but for him to like make the excuse like, oh, it was for the clan. I get it, you know? But you're a hypocrite, Hilo. Yeah. Let's talk about Shay, because I don't really have a lot to talk about Hilo for Jade War. I feel like I don't really remember. I just remember that Scrumdiddlyumptious man, I found him very hot in this one again, and I really liked him. I really got to love him in Jade War, you know? He's just such a fascinating character who has so many flaws. Like, he does not understand that people make their own decisions, and he has this, like, need to control, and I don't know, he's a very interesting character. Let's talk about Shay, though. Shay, I really liked her in this, but she wasn't my favorite. And I was kind of disappointed because I feel like I didn't really ever get much of her in this one. And we'll talk about that in Jade Legacy too. Like, I feel like I wanted to know, I mean, we did get a lot more of her personal life in this one. And I don't know, maybe it's because I spoiled myself. I'm so pissed that I spoiled myself on this because I really shouldn't have. I don't know. I wasn't really into like Shay and Maro's relationship, but I do understand like where the connection was between them and how much that affected Shay. I thought it was really tragic and really heartbreaking when he died. I don't know. I feel like it's very complicated, my feelings for Shay. Okay, let me explain that a little bit better. So, I spoiled myself on Shay and Woon. Like, I found out prematurely that they were going to end up together. And so, when I was reading about Shay and Maro, I didn't really care, which is, you know, my fault. And so I think through that, I felt like we didn't get a lot of Shay, but still reflecting back on Shay's character in Jade War, I still wanted more. And I think I mean like more of her inner monologue, I guess. You know, Shay is just such an interesting character. She's one of the only female characters within this trilogy who is in a like a high position, you know, not including Aya, but Aya doesn't ever get a perspective. And so that is what I wanted from Shay. And I think that Shay has the most interesting and intriguing scenes when she is with Aya and both of the characters are talking, because it's just so fascinating seeing these two Greenbone women who are at the top interact and be on opposite sides. It's so interesting, and for her to kind of like delve more into that and just how much pressure is on those two within the clan, it's something that I wish Shay thought more about, like on her own and not with Aya, because I feel like, I don't know, it could have added a lot And we do get the scene where Hami and the other lantern men kind of go behind Shay's back and say, you know, we don't think you can hold your position. But that's pretty much it. I feel like there was like so much more that I wanted to see and I wanted from Shay. Talking about Andon, I liked Andon. I really enjoyed how his perspective was very different outside the clan type of stuff. I loved it. It was very kind of this coming of age story too, and I loved it. I think he provided a really good tonal shift. It was more lighthearted, I feel, in his chapters, which I really liked. I like that he got a love interest. He was just so sweet, pathetic loser. I love him so much, and I thought it was really great how he kind of learned to grow into his own person and to really navigate his life and just understand himself as himself outside the clan. And so that was fantastic. Talking about my favorite Wen, oh my goodness, this was her book and only hers. I love her so much. She is like my favorite character ever. I don't think I've ever loved a character this much. Slam my head into a door. She is everything to me. I would die for her. I would kill for her. She is amazing. I want to give her the biggest hug ever. Hilo, you do not deserve her. She is fantastic. I love her so much. I don't know how to explain it. She's just like, she is the one who changed my brain chemistry. She is the one who's shifted my life's trajectory, and I love her for it. She is amazing. And oh my god, her and Hilo becoming parents, I have one. This is amazing, and I love them both as parents. I think it's really interesting too, because we don't really get parents in the first book. I mean, we get Coulson, but like, dude is old. He is not doing well mentally, so you know, like, that's like, we don't really get like any parental figures, I feel. I mean, the characters are adults, but even with the Call's mother, she doesn't really appear, and so for us to get to see more of a parental role pushed onto Hilo and Wen in the second book, fantastic. And then we get an introduction to Nico. Oh my god, he's so adorable. Oh my gosh, like, really, oh my god. And just to see him and like his attitude and personality when he was young, and then that going into him like in his teens and his 20s, fantastic. A little bit about the plot for Jade War. I really liked it. A lot of things happened. This does span, I think, like 2 years. It was fantastic. I loved it. A lot was going on, but I feel like it like never got really messy. It was really well done. I loved it. Let's talk about the end of each. I forget. They're different parts. The end of every different part really just like keeps you in, keeps you locked in. You know, in the beginning, I was kind of like, Ayat, Slay, you're kind of everything to me. That's really changes. I mean, I think she's like such an interesting character, and after reading her short story in Jade Shards, like, Fonda Lee writes a little note, kind of how the Greenbone Saga is not Ayat's story, and so it makes sense that she never got a perspective, which I never really noticed. I thought it was really interesting. Yeah, she's a very interesting character, but in the same vein as Hilo, I too would like to run her over with a car. So, yeah. The endings before the interludes, my goodness. And the interludes themselves, I actually really like them. I think it adds a lot of history to the world of, you know, Jade and the island of Kekon and just the entire world. I feel like it's so insightful. Does a bang up job of foreshadowing, which we all love. Let's talk about Lan's Jade being recovered. I actually kind of loved it. It was like such a heartwarming scene, because at this point I was like, it's only been a few years since Lan's death, and even in Jade City I feel like there wasn't a lot of like scenes where Hilo and Shay were grieving, and so to kind of see a little bit more of this, just like with Hilo and his grief kind of like being shown with Lan's death, I loved it. And then Nico, oh my god, Nico being so much like Lan, like sad boy Lan. It actually hurt. It actually hurt so much. Oh my goodness. Okay, now let's talk about the ending for this book, Jade War. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I spoiled myself, you know, intentionally and also unintentionally. I just like scroll past things and I read little snippets of words. So I actually thought that Wen was going to be dead by the end of this book, or like the end of the third book. So I was like dreading it. And then like that ending happened. Oh my god, yeah, that ending that happened. Okay, but Wen, Slay, she fucking killed Zanpunyo. Oh my And the delivery was fucking fantastic. She was like, the call family sent me, go die. And then she shoots Zampuño in the head, and just when you think like, okay, everything is fine, no. Back to that tweet where it said that finishing Jade War felt like you were left for dead in the back of an alley. Like, I had no idea just how much I would cry. Like, one second I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then the next second I was sobbing my eyes out. The fact that, oh my god, Wen is just such a strong character, and I absolutely love her. Hilo describes Wen as being more green than like anyone he knows, and my goodness, the fact that she went down like saying like, what is the line? The line is, the clan is my blood and the pillar is its master. Actually kill me now. And then Andon, here to save the fucking day. Oh my god. Okay, you have to understand, with Lan's death, I was like, he has to be resurrected, right? Like, someone has to come find him, and like, he's still alive the rest of the like trilogy. No, that didn't happen. So I didn't have high hopes that Wen would live. But then Andon pulling himself together and like channeling Wen was absolutely so emotional. Like, my god, that scene plays over and over in my head. Wen taking a breath, and then like Andon and Wen just like holding on to each other because of the things that they just went through. Oh my goodness. What a way to end this book. And then the fight between Shay and Hilo. I wish we got more of that with Shay and Hilo, because I feel like it shows so much of their like vulnerability. And I just loved any scene where it was Hilo and Shay interacting, because it was so interesting, because we see them interact with other people in the clan, but like so rarely with each other. And then that sibling bond that they have, especially with Lan being gone. You two are the only Call siblings left. There's gotta be a lot of trauma there. And so I loved that scene so much. And like Hilo saying like, you know, like, Jade can claim everything that I fucking have, my life, my blood, my time, everything, but not my wife. Jade cannot touch my wife. And like the fact that like it makes so much sense, like when being a stone eye, that line just hits so fucking hard. Oh my god, this fucking that fight was just everything. And also the actual like physical fight between like Hilo and Shay, I kind of wish we got more of it. Sorry, I'm a sucker for big argument and fight scenes. That was quite dynamic, and I so wish we got more scenes, because Shay talks about it a lot, and I think Hilo does too, but like the fact that they grew up, they're like a year apart, Hilo and Shay, and for them like growing up side by side, you know, Shay always picking on Hilo just to piss him off, and like I feel like we didn't really get to see that. And so for us to see this fight between Hilo and Shay, where Shay is like, I grew up picking on Hilo because like I just wanted to get a rise out of him, but like this time I don't, like I actually don't want that to happen, and like for it to explode so much into that, my god. And then for Nico to come in and like protect Shay, it means so much more after you've read Jade Legacy. Like, oh my goodness, it's actually everything. So fucking good. Jade War, I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Fantastic. It's so good. The stakes are high from the beginning to the end. This is so fucking good. It is possibly one of the best books that I've read this year. No words. It's fantastic. It's a new day. I am back to talk about Jade Legacy. I thought I had the willpower to do it yesterday, but I didn't. So here I am, talking about Jade Legacy. The way Jade War ended, going into Jade Legacy, I was very, very nervous because the second book was so dynamic. I didn't know how things were gonna end. And so going into it, like literally right after Jade War, I finished it, I closed the book, and then I went straight into the next one. It was very emotional. And because I ended Jade War crying, I could not stop crying at the beginning of Jade Legacy, especially once we get, I think it's like chapter 2 with Hilo, because Hilo cheats on Wen. And it made me sick to my stomach. Actually, like reading it, I was so miserable. Everyone in this book was making such horrible choices. They were so miserable that it affected me. Like, actually, I was having such a hard time getting through it. That nauseous feeling was not going away, and it was fucking Hilo's fault. And so this is going back to my point of Hilo and his decisions, where people's mood soured on him. That I feel like with what I've I've read, like about reviews and reactions to it, a lot of people's mood soured towards Hilo when he killed Nico's mom. And like I said, I understand how through his perspective it could be him saying, you know, it was for the clan, it was for the good of the clan, you know, especially because we find out that Rue's a Stone Eye, and with Jaya being a girl, it's much harder for her to assume the position of Pillar. And so with Nico, you know, he is the original Pillar's son. It makes sense that, you know, it was for the clan. The clan needed an heir and Nico was there to fill the position. And so again, it makes sense. but for Hilo to cheat on Wen, that decision purely selfish. It in no way like proves anything to the clan. Like I cannot see him making any fucking excuse for him cheating on Wen. Like, he does make up the excuse, like, you know, she disobeyed me. Motherfucker. Get a fucking grip. It, like, still frustrates me. And it angers me a lot. And, yeah, fuck you, Hilo. You suck so much. It's just like the fact that he doesn't do it once, he does it multiple times. Also, Wen knows about it, but they never talk about it, because Wen knows about it because Hilo doesn't hide it, but they never talk about it. Even when they confront their marriage, they never brought it up. Hilo never said sorry for it. He said sorry for other things, but he never said sorry for, you know, cheating on you. I needed more groveling from him. I needed him to say sorry for the longest time. Like, he needed to cut his ear off and give it to Wen. It was that serious for me. I can excuse murder, but I draw the line at cheating, okay? And it's just so much more heartbreaking because of how Jade War ended, where Wen dies for a couple of minutes and then Andon reviving Wen, you know, oxygen didn't go to her brain. And so this led to Wen having some brain damage, and with that she has to go to therapy in order to do the basics like walking, talking, all that stuff. And for Hilo to distance himself because she disobeyed him, you're actually kidding me. Wen never did anything wrong. I love her so much. Hilo, you can actually go fuck off. And it's like, I get it. It's this character. He has a hard time with people making their own choices, and that in turn, you know, affecting the clan or him. The only reason why their marriage was saved was because Hilo remembered what Andon said. I can't even put into words coherently on how like messy this was and how much frustration I have for it. Like, there's so many layers to it, so many things I could talk about with just that. And you know, with all that, I was really wondering how Fonda Lee would make me care for this man who made decisions that were completely selfish and hurt the love of his life. Like, I didn't know how she would do it, but she did. So he's such a complicated character. I want to say he's flawed. Yeah, he's flawed, but also he just makes the worst decisions ever. But, you know, he's still a really good character. I think the thing that most intrigued me about his character in this was him as a parent, because we get Nico, who is like in his 20s in this book, because this book spans 20 years, and that alone like shook me to my core, because I have never read a book like that where it spanned decades of characters' lives. And so I don't know, like just thinking back to Jade City, where our sweet Andon is 18 years old, going to Caldu Academy, graduating from Caldu Academy. Like, 18-year-old Andon is now 31 in Jade Legacy. Like, I had to pause for the longest moment and just take that in, because it has been so long. It was quite amazing, I think. But yeah, going back to Nico, he's 20. We saw him as a 2-year-old in Jade War, and now he's 20. And again, back to like Hilo being a parent and like, you know, Nico being the son, because we get Nico's perspective. It's so interesting. Like, I don't know, because most of us love Hilo, and so to see him kind of like act like a parent, you know, whipping Nico for not acting as a Greenbone. I think that was so interesting and so intriguing because we didn't see the Call's dad or much of their grandfather, Call Sen. Okay, let's try this one more time. We don't get to see much of the Call's parents or grandparents. We don't get to see much of the Call mother. We barely get anything of Call Sen. And so for us to see Hilo and his parenting tactics, like whipping Nico, it's very interesting. And then Hilo, just as a pillar himself, I thought it was so great to see how strongly he held his position even until the end. In the first book, there's a lot of hesitation on Hilo's part because he feels that he is not fit to be pillar. And so for us to read him growing into that position and doing it so well was great. He was still going strong at 50. We love it. He was still so intimidating until the end. He was intimidating in the beginning and it just still carries on until the end. And I really, really love that. Talking about Shay, I wish we got so much more of her. In the beginning, we get I feel like enough of her to feel like she has a strong presence in it. But after her and Woon have that whole thing, don't even get me started on that either. After the whole thing with her and Woon, she gets married and then she has a kid and we don't get to really see any of that. Her home life, more on that. I really liked how towards the end, Shay expresses a lot more feelings about her being a mother and her feeling very protective of Tia, who is very different from Shay. Tia doesn't like the violent environment that she is surrounded by, and so for Shay to express those feelings in wanting the clan to be better and wanting a better life for Tia, I think was just so great and was such a great bit of character from her. But I feel like it would have hit so much harder if we spent more time with Shay during her pregnancy. And I did like how Shay talks about being a mother at an older age that is expected from society. I think that was a really good little piece, but to have delved more into it would have, I think, just made her character even greater. And very much Shay's perspective is plot driven, and so I feel like that took away from some of her character. I feel very complicated feelings about Shay still, I do really love her, but my thing is that I get that Hilo is the main character of this trilogy, but this story centers around the Calls. The Call family is at the center of this. Why shouldn't Shay get the same amount of attention that Hilo got? You know what I'm saying? That's just something that I think about. To add on to Shay's character, because I feel so passionately about her and I love her, and so I just wish that the story centered more on her character and not just the plot things that were propelling the story forward with her chapters. I say this in the next clip, but Andon, who is a more minor character than Shay, has probably one of the best story arcs and the most consistent one. I feel like with Andon, we really get to know who he is and the struggles that he goes through and just the things he feels. Even with Andon talking about his queerness, I feel like that contributed to his feelings of feeling like an outsider, and it felt so consistent with his story arc. And so with that, I'm thinking Shay, there could have been aspects to her that were delved into, just the tiniest little things that could have really added a lot more nuance and a lot more depth to her character. I love Shay. I think she is such an amazingly written character, but there is still so much more potential for her, and I think I really wanted that. Moving on to Andon, I feel like he had the most steady arc out of every single character. It's so evident in the beginning his feelings and where his character arc is gonna go, and then Jade War was just so great with kind of that hesitation that he still has within a world that he grew up in, and him kind of getting to know himself a little bit better, and that being further developed in the third book was really fantastic. Him learning to be a doctor, using his channeling, I loved it. He is the most consistent character. It's really interesting that is, and I feel like it has to do with us seeing him at such a young age, because in Jade City we see him at 18, and then by the end of Jade Legacy he's in his 40s, and so I feel like we really got a lot of his formidable years where that confusion is still so prominent, and that want of wanting to fit in the world is still very prominent in his mind. And so yeah, I loved him. And then Nico, Oh, Nico. Him being in his 20s in this book, it felt really bittersweet for some reason, because we saw him as a 2-year-old in Jade War, and now he's 20 taking orders within the clan, you know, making his own decisions. And then again with Hilo being a parent, you know, it was so interesting seeing Nico react to Hilo and Wen as parents, because Hilo and Wen as parents aren't the characters that we got to know. We got to know them as individuals first, and so Nico only knowing Hilo and Wen as parents, I think that was so interesting and very intriguing for his perspective to kind of delve into how both Hilo and Wen parent differently. I just kind of loved it. I thought it was really interesting how he came back and assumed the role of pillar. I don't know, but like the pacing never felt right with that, because even when he came back and started taking orders within the clan, you know, learning the business side with Shay, it never felt like such a strong urge to do it. I don't know. That's probably me just like not understanding it. So I've been like thinking about this a little bit more, but Nico becoming pillar, I think the pacing felt weird for me because there was never a moment where Nico was like, I have to do this. It was kind of just like, I'm gonna do it because my brother's gone and this just feels like the right thing to do. I don't know. Maybe it was the same situation as Hilo where Nico became pillar because he had to. More out of duty and less him being aware that this is what I was born for. Something that I didn't mention was the way that Hilo presented Nico the news that Hilo killed his mom. Like when the whole scene happened in Jade War, I was really wondering how Nico would react in the future, because with Hilo killing Nico's mom, he essentially took away Nico's choice in his life's trajectory. And so I like that it makes sense where Nico decides to leave the clan and decide for himself what his own life is gonna look like. But honestly, I was expecting it to be way more dramatic than it was, and I found that it was really interesting how Nico kind of was really calm with it. And I'm actually really surprised that Hilo told Nico at such a young age, because I thought that it would be something that was brushed aside or something that was just never talked about until Nico got older and he started questioning, who was my mom? That was just something I found really interesting and I wanted to kind of mention. And then quickly about Rue and Jaya. Rue and Jaya, I feel like possibly we could have gotten a lot more from those two. I think Rue was such an interesting character because he's a stone eye, and for him to kind of like accept that and not be beaten down with the fact that, you know, he will never have a position within the clan, I think that was really interesting. And also seeing a world outside the Jade world, I think is always really interesting. And Jaya, I read a lot of reviews and reaction to her character, and I didn't realize it, but she's very much girl boss character, where that's kind of it. Like, I loved her for the line where she stands up for Rue and is like, if you bully my brother again, I will come home and kill your pets. Work, kind of, Jaya, you know? But what people were saying does make sense, because Jaya, she is barely in this book, and I think that was such a loss because she gets sent away and we don't really get to see much of her until her and her fingers have to kill the pillar. Like, I just needed more from her. She cannot girl boss her way out of the story. I wanted her reactions to everything that was going down, her mother being kidnapped, her reaction to Rue's death. I wanted more of that, and like, it's actually kind of heartbreaking how Jaya didn't get to see her dad like before he died. And I feel like she was done dirty. And I feel like there was so much potential with her ambitions and being the Horn of the No Peak clan, because there has never been like a woman Greenbone who was Horn, and her ambitions into wanting that, I think it was so like such a loss for us to not get to see that, her pushing and growing into that position in the same way that we kind of read about Hilo doing that, you know? And just with these three siblings, Nico, Rue, and Jaya, I wanted more interaction with all of them. I think it would have been so interesting because we don't get to see much interaction with Lon, Hilo, and Shay together. So we have Rue, Jaya, and Nico growing up together and them being very much closer in age. I think it was, again, a loss that we didn't get to see much interaction with them, because I think it would have been so interesting to see how they grew up and how they interacted with each other compared to, you know, the original Cole siblings. Anyway, let's talk about my favorite character ever, Wen. She is my everything. I love her. I will love her until I die. She is amazing. She deserves everything in the world. And you know what? She was severely pushed to the side in this book, and I am very frustrated about that because she has such a huge and strong presence within Jade War, and then for her character to be dialed back in Jade Legacy, No, I actually will not stand for that. Especially because she becomes the pillar man. Again, this like never delving into like these women in these high positions, and especially Wen, who's a stone eye, her being in that position, I feel like there could have been so much more delved into it. Because Wen has like fought so hard for her position within her life. And people openly criticize the fact that Hilo promoted Wen, his wife, and stone eye to being pillar man. And so to see kind of more of that pull through, because we do kind of see a little bit with Wen going to like the community stuff and that like radio lady person who turns into a politician, kind of like, you know, jabbing at Wen. I think to delve into that more would have been so interesting, and I think it would have been such a great way, like even with Shay's character, like people openly criticizing Shay and her ability to be weatherman. I think to delve more into that and these women who are in high positions within the clan, it would delve into the patriarchy of the clan, of the system that they are born into, and I think like it would have like added so much more nuance, and I just wanted more. Especially my Wen, she was such a standout in the second book. You can't take her away from me. She is everything. She will remain everything to me. Talking about Ayat such an interesting character. I think because we never get her perspective within these books, I think it's always so interesting whenever the calls interact with Ayat. It's so delicious, and I don't know how like else to explain it, because it's always so intriguing and the tension is always like there. And again, she is a Greenbone woman who is at the top of her clan, and I think like whenever we got her, it was just fantastic. She is so smart, she is so cunning, very compelling character, and it's always like just like frustrating and intriguing to see how far she would go in order to keep her position at the top. Like, I hate you, but I kind of get it. Talking about the plot a little bit, towards the end, like I genuinely felt like the calls were fucked. There was like this much left and I didn't know how they were going to repair everything, but then they did, and I just like, it didn't like sit well in my stomach, and I just knew that something was bound to break. But then like Shay goes to visit Aya, and Aya's just like, yeah, you done it, you know, like I don't know how you did it, but like you did it. And it's just like, again, the tensions were so high. I felt like something is bound to like happen that just ruins everything, and it does, because that ending comes and Hilo dies. It was truly the calm, the quiet calm before the storm. I thought the ending was fantastic. The more I sit on it and think about it, it's very bittersweet, but it was really good. It's very definitely frustrating because some people fucking live when they really shouldn't have, and people die that shouldn't have. Rue, oh my god, quickly on that, let's talk about that. Rue, oh my god, because we don't really get much of him, I was like, what is going to happen, you know, when he goes to the club and all of that shit happens. I swear, like, very much of Rue comes out in this, and I feel like we get to know him most, like, literally in the scene before he dies. He is so headstrong and very much green, even though he's a stone eye, very much like Wen. He's like, you don't fuck with the calls, you don't fuck with me. And then for him to just die after that, I was cheering him on, and then I was sobbing. Truly came out of nowhere. So that was surprising, especially because this comes after Tar dies. Let's also talk about that. Tar and his, oh my god, I think that was like actually really heartbreaking. I mean, Tar killing his fiance, like what Tar did, killing his fiance who was also Greenbone, it like was so sinister. Oh my god, truly miserable me in this book. And then for Tar to make his return, honestly I was really nervous because I was like, I don't know what's going on. Like, is he really just like wanting Jade that badly that he would, like, I was like, he has to, like, he can't be disloyal, you know? And then when all that happens, it was very much a shock to me, and it was so heartbreaking. That's just how I would explain it. It's so heartbreaking. After Tara's passing, we have Rue. Loss after loss. Please leave the calls alone. I was actually so sick to my stomach. I could not. And then now the ending where I knew things were too good to be true, and then that fucking assassination and Hilo saving Shay and Nico when he couldn't save Rue and Lan, and also Tar. Actually, what? And I think it was just so heartbreaking and like so shocking to see Hilo. You know, he's this very intimidating character who seems very much unbeatable, and then for him to sacrifice himself and die, it was a lot. It was a lot. And Wen's mourning, like, that scene sticks with me so much, where after Hilo passes, Wen just comes out of their room dressed in white and goes to sit under the tree that they got married at. Actually, that is too much. Oh my god, it was so bittersweet. Oh my god, I don't know what else to say. It was just so sad. And talking about Wen with this, the fact that people see Stone Eyes as bad luck, I think that being carried through this with Wen losing so much, Wen losing her two brothers, her husband Hilo, and Rue, her son. I feel like these themes that are running throughout this story just hit so hard, and it's a little bit too much. And then I think ending it with Andon was quite good, because Andon is the most consistent character within this series. I feel like it was so good to end it with him and him going to his family, especially since he has felt like the outsider his entire life. It was nice to end with him. I think that's all I want to talk about with this series. This video has just been a whirlwind. I think I'm done talking about it for now. Just know that the series was really fantastic and I love it. There's a lot of things I could talk about, but this video would be way too long, so I will end it here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.